there's two roads that diverge in a wood here. I think everybody would be wise to follow the path of trying to heal and mourning right now, as opposed to the other path, which is using Kirk's murder as a pretext to either attack political opponents or to increase the temperature about political opponents. And so, the two examples you raised, I think, are a really good contrast.
Some have described the memorial service, in essence, as a political rally yesterday. And to say that that would occur during a memorial service, many would argue that would be somewhat disrespectful as well to Kirk and his family.
I think you could say that. I mean, I think, again, people want to heal. People are really scared about the temperature in this country on all sides. We don't want to see an escalation based on this incident. And so we want to see our leaders, who, again, have a role to play in encouraging public opinion to respond appropriately. We want to see those leaders take the temperature down themselves and not stoke things. So I think you're right. I think, it's kind of like we always want to try to avoid politicizing something in the aftermath of a tragedy if we can avoid it, because we all want to connect with the human aspect of what's going on first. And look, I'm a Democratic elected official. I disagree with tons of what Charlie Kirk said, and I think tons of the things he said were offensive. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a human being who can't recognize a tragedy when I see one. I think everybody needs to be on board with that spirit right now.
Yeah, yet again, our condolences going out to the Kirk family. Truly a loss for them and for many others who stood behind with regard to what he believed in. Well, in just a couple of hours, President Trump is expected to announce that Tylenol during pregnancy, and that is women who use it, well, they could contribute to autism risk, and will advise pregnant women only to use it for high fevers. This coming just several days after the president said he would make a big announcement today stating that autism is totally out of control and, quote, "I think we maybe have a reason why." What do you think the president will say, Josh?
I mean, this always is my answer about trying to predict what Trump does. It's almost impossible to predict what the guy is going to do. I will say that we have context clues to figure out if this link that he's trying to establish has any sort of veracity to it. And the context is that he's been waging war on the CDC. We talked about that a few weeks ago. The director of the CDC testified that she was basically ordered by RFK to ignore the science on vaccines and to fire people who were doing the real science on vaccines. And so, we can't trust the scientific or health guidance coming out of this administration when it's contrary to established methods and principles or, the scientific method. And so, my understanding, and I did my own research on this, just looking it up, the experts are all saying there's no known link at all between Tylenol or acetaminophen and autism. I mean, there's obvious issues with acetaminophen that are long documented, right? And I'm no medical expert, so I can't recite all of them here. But it's not like we're all trying to hide the truth about Tylenol and now finally Trump is going to be the one to unveil it. We know the truth about Tylenol. And there's, again, I'll reiterate, no evidence that there's a link between Tylenol and autism. So, this is a really dangerous and irresponsible time at the administration, because you have top leaders like the president himself and his Health and Human Services secretary pushing failed theories about links between autism and different, potential stimuli that are just meant, again, kind of like what we were just talking about. They're meant to inflame people, they're meant to sow distrust, and they're not based on the science. And so I want to use my loudest, clearest possible voice here on this issue, that unless there's science behind something like this, you just can't trust what the administration's saying about health.
And perhaps we'll get more clarity during the White House press briefing, which yet again is set to get underway in just about 45 minutes or so. Hey, Josh, look, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's the CEO of the Fox Corporation to the rescue. In this case, I'm referring to none other than Rupert Murdoch and his son, reportedly involved in a deal to save TikTok. The U.S. CEO of the Fox Corporation stating this earlier. By the way, I should make mention that's Fox 5's parent company. He's stating that 6 of the 7-member board that controls TikTok will be Americans. White House officials say the U.S. will also control the app's algorithm. Is it a done deal?
Well, Guy, I hope that Fox doesn't put in your contract that you have to call the higher ups at Fox Superman. Blink once if you're okay, Guy. Look, I'm glad that we're going to move away from Chinese control of the TikTok app, just because there are clear data privacy issues. The Chinese government, I don't think, can be trusted with American data, and so I've been very careful. I think I've mentioned this before about keeping TikTok off my personal phone, even though it is a useful tool for getting information out and spreading awareness about things. We'll see how it goes with with American control. I mean, one thing I am concerned about is if we feel that there's a trust issue with whether TikTok is controlled by one ideological force as opposed to another. It's kind of like Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. There were a lot of people who were more democratic leaning who were concerned that Musk was trying to, change the algorithms and toy with the gears of the actual app itself to privilege one type of speech over another. So I want to see some real assurances from the new ownership, even if they are American, that they're not going to be tinkering with the algorithm to try to favor one type of speech above another. Because again, against the backdrop of Kimmel and everything else going on right now, there's just a lot of threats to free speech in this country, free expression in general. And so I would like to see TikTok not just be an American app, but also be a vehicle for real free speech.
Well, Josh, you don't have TikTok on your phone. I come from the era of all I know TikTok to do is come from a clock. And I'll have to leave it at that for now. We're going to move on to President Trump delivering his first address of his second term to the annual gathering of global leaders at the UN General Assembly tomorrow. Now, he will be at odds with more than half of the member nations, including key allies, over the war in Gaza and the possibility of establishing a Palestinian state. According to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, quote, "There will be no Palestinian state." What do you think will happen with all of this, Josh?
It's really hard to say. One reason it's hard to say is because the United States has held out for so long over the last couple of years against international public opinion about what Netanyahu's government is doing in Gaza. The war has been extremely unpopular internationally now, going on years. Obviously, the U.S. has been a stalwart ally of Israel and wants the state to exist and be able to defend itself. And I take that position as well. But what we're seeing in Gaza is indefensible. I mean, everybody is going to be against the way that this Gaza war has been perpetrated at some point in the future, where the whole international community is going to look back and say, we could have done more, we didn't do enough. And I think you see that pressure manifesting in the United Nations talks about recognizing Palestine as a state. I mean, a majority of public opinion, I think, in the United States at this point thinks that Israel is doing that war the wrong way. And so we have to be very circumspect about the extent of U.S. support. We have to make sure that the U.S. support that we give is not being used to perpetrate the war in illegal ways that violate international human rights laws. So, that's the priority. I think if we want to actually put America first, was not a phrase I'm using, but Trump's using, then it means that American interests should be first. If American interests are first, it means that we can't just let Netanyahu unilaterally decide everything that the United States does and pull us into things that we don't want to be a part of. So I think the growing international pressure and even the domestic pressure in the United States is a sign that things are changing. But to your question, I don't know exactly how fast it's going to be until the world realizes what's happening in Gaza is totally unacceptable.
Yeah, yet again, we expect to receive more information tomorrow during the UN General Assembly. We'll end with the big one, as they say, Josh. In this case, we're talking about the potential for a government shutdown. We know that Congress is moving headfirst toward, well, just that, a government shutdown, after the Senate voted down a pair of stopgap spending bills, including a clean one proposed by the GOP to keep the lights on for 7 weeks, while lawmakers hammer out a longer-term deal. It's the multi-trillion-dollar question. Josh, are we going to see a government shutdown?
Listen, man, again, going back to just the context and the past history on this issue, Republicans have not hesitated to do brinksmanship on government shutdown, and Democrats always seem to be the party of trying to keep the government open, even when they're not in the majority. I mean, that's the thing that Democratic voters right now are really frustrated about with Democratic leadership, is it's like, come on, y'all. I mean, if Republicans are in power, let the chips fall. If they can't get their own ducks in a row to keep the government open, we don't have to help them when the pathway to keeping the government open means slashing programs like Medicaid, kicking millions of people off their health insurance, all that kind of long-term policy goal that hardliners in the Republican Party have been pursuing for a while. We don't have to give in to those demands just because of this abstract idea that keeping the government open is important, or that it's important to our voters. I think our voters want to see fight. And when I say our voters, I mean not just Democrats, but really a majority of the country wants to see people standing up to the authoritarianism that's happening right now, and the lack of backbone in Congress to kind of roll over and do whatever Trump says all the time. So yeah, I think the politics of shutdowns are changing. I think that Democrats are getting immense pressure not to try to save Republicans from themselves. And I'm sitting here in Georgia personally hoping that Democrats do just kind of let the chips fall, because at the end of the day, this is the government that the voters elected. The voters, it's almost a responsibility thing. You need to show the voters what they elected so that they can learn for the 26 and 28 elections what they'd like to see instead.
Yeah, yet again, we should wait for the White House press briefing at 1 o'clock to see if just that is addressed. We have been speaking with Mr. Josh McLaurin, Georgia State Senator, kind enough to join us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend. Make it a great day.
Great to see you, Guy. Thanks again.
All right, guys, we'll take our first break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, in every corner of our community, we share hopes, dreams, and challenges. My next guest hopes to bring people together as he, well, let's just say, builds a brighter future. I'm referring to gun violence prevention leader, entrepreneur, and U.S. Army Reserve combat engineer, Amomar Mucunda. He has a major announcement today as he looks to bring change to District 39 in the Maryland House of Delegates. He now joins us on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Amar, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Guy, great to see you as well, and thank you for having me.
So
really
obviously, you have been quite the busy bee, as they say, sir. You have done a lot throughout your career, and really starting with regard to gun violence prevention. What is it exactly that you were hoping to get across with that, and what have you done in that realm?
Yeah, I think the most important thing when it comes to gun violence prevention is understanding that our young people who are involved in gun violence, who are dealing with addiction, who may be dealing with homelessness, those are people we can invest in and help guide to the right path. That's the most important thing, and that's what I've been doing. I spent 4.5 years helping to lead ROCA here in Maryland, which really was focused on investing in our highest risk young people, mental health, vocational training, GED. That is the work on the ground, hands-on, that makes a difference in making communities safer.
And Amar, it's no secret, you just highlighted some of your accolades, and now you hope to, well, lend a helping hand to folks that are in dire need, in this case by throwing your hat in the ring for District 39 in the Maryland House of Delegates. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm super excited to announce that I'm running for the House of Delegates right here in District 39. This is an amazing part of Montgomery County. It is incredibly diverse. It's incredibly special. It's been home to me. You know, I grew up here in Montgomery County, and it's also a place that really needs a lot more investment. You know, if you look at our high school, Watkins Mill, there's a lot of young people who don't want to be in school, a lot of young people who are involved in the streets. There's a lot of youth homelessness right here in District 39. Those are the things that I really am passionate about, have been working on, and I'm hopeful that as a member of the House of Delegates, I can help address those concerns at a broader level.
Yeah, it's all about being a leader, as many would say, and not a follower. And it's no secret, yet again, you have served as a combat engineer in the Army Reserves. What skills that you have learned there and or acquired there will you now bring to the table should you actually win this position, sir?
You know what, Guy? The biggest thing that anybody who serves in the military, especially if you serve in a combat forward branch, is extreme determination. There's one thing and one thing only that makes America's military special, and that is the indefatigable nature of our soldiers. And that is what you learn in the military. You learn never to give up. And this is a political moment when so many people feel paralyzed, feel like our country is lost, feel like there's nothing we can do. This is the moment when we have to fight back.
What are
That
the
is
things?
really the biggest thing that somebody who served in the military can bring to the table is just, hey, we're going to keep pushing. That's what the military is all about.
Yeah, and as you were making that comment, I was thinking to myself that along with that happens to be vision. And a part of your vision surrounds none other than faith, family, and fortitude. Do tell, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I grew up here in Montgomery County. I had an incredible childhood. My parents were entrepreneurs. They were very successful in the 90s. And then in 2001, my parents' company went bankrupt. My parents lost their home. They lost absolutely everything. And we spent basically until I graduated high school moving around. We moved 7 times, pretty much all within Montgomery County, stayed with a family friend for 2.5 years, rent free, stayed with my aunt. My family really, really struggled. But throughout all of those struggles, we were at a house of worship every single weekend, no matter what. We were in school on time. That belief that you can do the right thing and things can get better, that belief that we can stick together as a community and support each other and things can get better, that's what I'm about. That's what my family is about. That's what our communities are about. And politics is so often about stabbing each other in the back, making deals behind the scenes. That's not going to inspire people. That's not going to change what's going on in this moment if we just continue with politics as usual. Let's reground ourselves in who we are as people. We're people who care about each other. We're people who want to do the right thing. That's what this campaign is about. It's that simple.
Yeah, Amar, it's no secret. When you think of Maryland, I think of the infrastructure challenges, mobility at that as well. What changes would you make, if any, to really, let's say, have an impact on traffic, transit, and energy costs in District 39?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a huge issue for everybody here in Maryland, especially if you're in the DMV area. And to be perfectly honest, I think my experience as an engineer, I studied energy and infrastructure engineering at Stanford. That's where I did my master's. Really makes me think differently about our transit problems. A lot of the solutions that we have proposed are very costly. They would take a long time. And part of that is how we regulate big projects. So I want to make it easier from a regulatory perspective for Maryland to build big projects. But I also want us to think differently. Smart, advanced traffic light synchronization. That's probably not something you've heard any political person talk about,
Yeah.
but it makes a real difference in people's lives. And extending the red line to Germantown is something that most people imagine would take billions of dollars and 10 years to do. But we actually have existing track owned by CSX, which Maryland already has a contract with for the MARC to use that track. We should expand that contract, use the existing track. Yes, we'd have to buy new rail cars that fit on that track, but that's the kind of engineering solution that you can get moving, make progress without having to spend tons and tons of money. That's what's important to people.
I have about 1 minute left. There is someone watching right now. They have been watching you. They are still teetering on the fence, if you will, as to why they should cast a vote for you. With that, sir, I give you the floor. Why should that person give you their vote?
Thank you, Guy. The biggest reason why somebody should consider our campaign is that we are doing things differently. I'm a leader who is focused on doing work hands-on on the ground. I haven't spent my career making speeches. I've spent my career working with our highest risk young people. That's what I want to continue to do. I also believe that not taking corporate money is very, very important. We need a new kind of politics. That's what I'm trying to bring to the table.
Folks that want to find out more information about you, sir, how would one go about to do so?
Best way to do it is check out our campaign website, mucundaformaryland.com. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Amomar Mucunda.
Mr. Amomar Mucunda, yet again running for District 39, joining us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. I truly appreciate your time. Good luck, sir.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, tomorrow, thousands of Iranian Americans and supporters from across the U.S. will gather for a massive Free Iran protest rally and press conference at the United Nations headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. This large-scale rally coincides with the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, during which they will discuss a number of things with regard to speeches and leading lawmakers joining them, influential advocates, policy experts, Iranian victims, and former political prisoners. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Dr. Ramesh Separad. She joins us right here on the Live Zone. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking time out and welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, this is a big deal. All eyes will be on Midtown come tomorrow, at this time perhaps, with regard to what's taking place, the gathering of the UN General Assembly. What is it exactly that you all are hoping to get across?
Yes, there are going to be thousands of Iranian American communities coming together to really let the world community know that there is a solution to the Iran problem, and that solution is a democratic Iran as advocated and presented by Maryam Rajavi in her 10-point plan when she talks about a non-nuclear secular republic Iran. The rally is also going to be calling on the international community to really hold the Iranian regime accountable for the crimes against humanity. And what the Iranian people want is an Iranian regime change, which really means that they don't want any boots on the ground from the foreign militaries. They don't want any funding from anyone. All they want, all the people of Iran want, is the recognition of the rights to overthrow this regime and recognition of the alternative to this regime, which is the National Council of Resistance of Iran. So that is going to be the key message tomorrow during the rally in New York City.
Dr. Separad, without outside help, is that possible? Is it likely to happen without, let's say, the U.S. and or the U.S. allies interfering and taking part as well?
Absolutely. As you can really see in the ongoing protests inside Iran, even the movement of the political prisoners inside Iran that are really motivating the society. There is ongoing strikes, ongoing rallies across all 31 provinces of Iran. The Iranian people have this network of resistance units that are ready to overthrow this regime. All we want is for the policy of appeasement to end on this regime and for the international community to put the pressure that it needs to put on this terrorist regime that is driving towards a nuclear bomb, and instead support the Iranian people's call for regime change. With that support of the international community, I am confident that the people of Iran are going to overthrow this regime just as they have in the last 100 years of struggle. You have to remember, Iran has had multiple revolutions, particularly the revolution against the monarchy. The people of Iran have said no to the monarchy, they are saying no to theocracy, and they are saying yes to a non-nuclear secular republic. And that is the key message for the rally tomorrow at the UN.
And to your point, yet again, it's the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, the rally taking place, to your point, tomorrow. But that's the culmination, if you will, of what's been happening for over a week now. I'm hoping you can discuss and tell us some of the things that you all have been focusing on throughout the past 5 days.
Yeah, in the past 5 days, we have been focusing on really raising awareness on the ongoing human rights violations in Iran. The Iran's delegation that's coming to the UN is responsible for massive executions since last year. There has been more than 1,600 executions in Iran. Iran's President Pezeshkian is not a representative of the Iranian people. The UN seat belongs to the people of Iran. And our message over the last 5 days has been through the photo exhibitions and the protests and rally and reaching out to the public to join us. Join us at 9:30 in the morning and lend your voice, the voice of the Iranian people, for human rights, for democracy, for a free Iran that can live in a peaceful coexistence with its neighbors, and also will be a secular republic that really allows the people of Iran to thrive and as represented and reflected in the 10-point plan by Maryam Rajavi. That is the future of Iran that we are fighting for and we are advocating for.
Dr. Separad, folks that want to find out more information, how would one go about to do so?
Yes, please visit us on our website, which is www.oiac.org. That is Organization of Iranian American Communities. We have 41 chapters across the U.S., and as you say, thousands of them will be tomorrow gathering in front of the UN at 9:30 in Dag Hammarskjöld in the intersection of 47 and 2nd. Please join us and connect with us. We need every voice to raise their international community's conscience and support the people of Iran in our rally tomorrow and the day after, the 23rd and the 24th.
Well said. We truly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Fox 5 Live Zone.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We are 18 minutes away from yet again a White House press briefing. That will happen momentarily. In the meantime, we're going to take you up the road to New York City, where tomorrow the 80th session of the UN General Assembly will get underway. They're holding a press conference now. Let's take a look in.
They will put, I'm assuming there's going to happen a triggering for a process at the Council, Security Council, which is going to be vetoed, and then it will go to the GA, like we had with the status of an observer state, what will be the situation that there is 150 nations vote to change the status of Palestine into a full member from an observer member? Since they already on bilateral
charter,
level, they
you know
recognize.
how much I love to walk down the hypothetical path with you. I can tell you that the charter is clear on the path to membership. It is in the hands of the member states. Any other change in status or any other solutions that may be found is up to member states, but I'm not going to go there. Dennis.
All right, yet again, officials speaking at the press conference as they await the UN General Assembly, the 80th version, if you will, to get underway tomorrow afternoon, in which President Trump will be in attendance. We'll continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon right here on the Live Zone. Well, if you've had the opportunity to take a stroll outside in the recent times, perhaps you saw a spooky-looking web. Yeah, it's popping up around the DMV, specifically on trees. I call it creepy and kooky. Sounds like the Addams Family, doesn't it? Well, perhaps you need to search for fall webworm, and you'll recognize their handiwork. But don't let me tell it. Joining us, as he always does, is local arborist Lou Meyer, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone to help break it all down for us. Hey, Lou, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show. Hey, your side... Okay, there we go. I got you. Good to see you, my friend.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, sideways there. So from the UN to fall webworm, what a pivot. Love it. Lots of stuff going on in the world today. Lots of things to be aware of.
Yeah, I tell you, well, that's one thing about this show. You never know what you're going to get. In this case, well, quite honestly, I prefer the webworm over the UN. So this is really interesting to me. I bring that up because I was on vacation last week, and I did take a stroll, and I did see one of these webs, and I just thought it happened to be a spider, but I guess what you're telling us is that's not the case.
Yeah, fall webworms, or Hyphantria cunea, for those who prefer the Latin nomenclature, is not a spider. And it's not a worm either, as the name would imply. It's not a fall webworm, even though the name is. It's actually a caterpillar. It's a moth.
Wow.
So it's it's one of our beneficial pollinators that's out there. Beneficial that it is a pollinator as a moth. But the reason why we're talking about it is because they do show up, and they do pose some threat to your trees, and they're definitely something to be aware of, right? So a lot of your viewers probably are in the same boat as you. They're either walking or driving, and they see these giant webs on the side of the highway or on their pathways that they're walking on. And so they're moths, and before they change over to moths, they're caterpillars. And they develop these webs to protect them while they're feeding on the leaves of the trees.
Wow, it's so intriguing. I mean, every time I get a chance to chat with you, I am just truly amazed. I guess the next question I need to pose is, what should I do? Meaning, should I run into the house, grab the broom, and knock that web down, or just leave it alone?
That's the right question to be asking. And you should ask that about all issues that you see with trees. So trees are living beings like you and me or our pets, right? So there's constantly nature, and there's constantly effects that are changing the world around them as well. And fall webworms are no different. Now, here's some good news, Guy. Fall webworms can be unsightly, and they can damage trees. And if your tree has a lot of issues already, they can pose a risk to the tree. But for the majority of the trees that you see fall webworms on, they're not a giant concern for the health of the tree. They're more an aesthetic concern. So say you have a willow tree or an oak tree or a hickory, which is some of their favorite species. They like cherries, they like walnuts. Say you have one of those in your front yard, and that's the centerpiece of your landscape. That's what really ties it together. And it's inundated with these fall webworms. Well, the health of the tree might not be too scary, but like you said, if someone walks up to the house, if you look outside and see these webs on your trees, you might freak out a little. At that point, it's a good idea to address them. And there's a few things to consider. One, we always talk about damage threshold when we talk about damage to trees. So every person has their own threshold that they'll allow. I have a very high threshold for damage because I know trees really well, and I know when they're getting over a certain line. Some other people might get freaked out by things, and that's perfectly okay. We're here to help. At that point, you want to remove those fall webworms from the tree. The best way is through mechanical removal. Take a pair of hand pruners or a pole pruner and cut those little sacks out of the tree. You can dispose them off property. If you really want to get rid of them, you can soak them or dunk them into a bucket filled with an alcohol and water solution, things like that. But really, just getting them off your property is all you need to do. Because again, they're not causing a tremendous amount of harm to your tree. There are products that you can use, so things that you can spray onto your tree, foliar applications of insecticides, insecticidal soap or horticultural oil are two low effect approaches that don't damage our beneficial insects as much. But keep in mind, a lot of beneficial predators feed on these things. So don't go wild, because you might end up killing the animals that we want to keep out there.
Wow. I would add, Lou, to not use a blowtorch, if you will, which I saw someone on TikTok doing. Not the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, that is something that we didn't used to do, but yes, it was something that was recommended once upon a time. Don't ever do that. You're going to end up on TikTok or YouTube, or worse, in the emergency room or a jail cell. Don't ever try and burn these things off. It's just not worth it. The damage to the tree isn't enough, and the potential damage to you and your property is not enough.
Yeah, although we are talking about the fall webworm, it will not officially be fall until about an hour and 15 minutes from now, Lou. With that being said, anything else I should look for, I should be on the lookout for with regard to as we approach a new season and I'm looking at my amazing trees in my front and or backyard?
I mean, all sorts of things. This is the time to inspect your trees before the heavy rain and snow and winds come in the fall and leading into winter. So, you know, if on a beautiful day like this, if you have some time to stand out in your front yard and look up, and if you see dead limbs in your trees, especially over your house or driveway or other targets, that's when you want to call an arborist. Call Davey Tree. We make free house calls. We'll come out and assess your trees and get them right for the winter to protect you and to protect your assets.
Absolutely love it. Lou, folks want to find out more information about you and or the fall webworm. How would one go about to do so?
Yeah, so you can start by going to davey.com, which is Davey Tree's website. Also, for those in the DMV area, the Maryland Extension Agency and the Virginia Extension Agency both have all sorts of great publications on fall webworms or any other insect or tree issues out there.
Absolutely love it. Mr. Lou Meyer, he is a local arborist. I'd like to call him my friend as well, and kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, sir.
Guy, it's great to be here. Happy fall, my friend.
Enjoy the weather. We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We are now 8 minutes away from the top of the hour. Going to take you back to New York, the United Nations to be exact, where tomorrow the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly will get underway. A press conference currently underway as I speak. Let's take a look in.
Of women and the very end, Excellencies. An ordinary girl in Montenegro can expect to live longer than an ordinary boy. She'll probably get higher level of education than her boy's classmate. But despite all the progress, she will still have challenges if she dreams to become a head of state or government, or to address you from this place. This is not reality only for Montenegro girls. It is up to us, the governments in power, to invest more to create a just and equal future for all women and girls. We owe it to them, but above all, we owe it to all of us, to our entire societies, as we search for meaningful answers.
I thank the Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Montenegro, and now give the floor to Her Excellency Joelle Clark, Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment.
Obviously, we will continue to monitor the press conference that's currently underway surrounding all things with regard to what will be discussed tomorrow during the 80th session of the UN General Assembly. Well, human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in the world, with airports, bus terminals, and schools often being the most vulnerable points of exploitation. The challenge for authorities isn't just finding traffickers after the fact. It's really all about being able to do so in real time. Hence, intro my next guest. I'm referring to Mr. Chris Chibb. He's the CEO of Bluefin Solves. Most recently, he has been working on practical applications of AI that address exactly this problem. In this particular case, I'm referring to using license plate recognition technology. Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Guy. Pleasure to be here.
I got to tell you, this is, for me, something straight out of the Jetsons. I don't want to date myself here, but truly intriguing and truly interesting. How does this work?
So we're all familiar with cameras. There are cameras on every corner and every building, in and outside of parking lots. There are cameras all over the place, but cameras today are a little bit of an evidence gathering device, right? It's very reactive. There's no proactivity, there's no intelligence. And so what we're doing today with cameras is we're loading our models that are running on edge or in local environments or in a variety of clouds, but we're running our models to help and assist in alerting law enforcement or local security teams when there's some suspicious activity or behavior that's being that's deemed unsafe.
Yeah.
In this case,
I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
In this case, these are cameras specifically trained on looking for types of vehicles, the license plates, so we can, of course, have an identity of the car associated to the human, and then also suspicious activity and behavior.
Yeah, Chris, they say the proof is in the pudding, and obviously this not only works, but it's doing great things, if you will. What really intrigued me as well happened to be that you don't need the internet in order to make this happen. Do tell.
That's right, yeah. So we're at a unique place in history. Large companies are no longer, or companies with the resources to deploy are no longer the only ones that have this type of technology. AI means I can deploy now on edge in a small server farm localized to your business, even on a laptop in your office. And so it can run literally anywhere.
When it comes to human trafficking, there are some who are proactive and there are some who are reactive. I would argue this is definitely proactive.
Very proactive, yeah. So we know when there's suspicious activity. We know what that activity is. And so not necessarily to go into that detail with your viewers, but those activities deemed suspicious can be trained by our models. And at the moment we suspect something foul play is happening, I can alert local law enforcement right away. They can be there on the scene.
Yeah, yet again, this is just so neat, for a lack of a better word. I absolutely love this. And I'm also thinking about how you're able to use this, in essence, in diverse settings. Let's say from a university parking lot to perhaps in a busy airport.
Yeah, a busy airport, schools, university parking lots. Yesterday I was at a football event. I think there were 60 or 70,000 fans in a stadium. And so, I went to the stadium. I know this particular stadium very well. They're using a great deal of AI surveillance also at this stadium. I got to the stadium, my team won, I had a blast, I got home. That was sort of the point, right? I didn't get, nobody broke in my parking lot. There was no We went to the tailgate, people grilled dogs and listened to their favorite music. But if there were a throw hands party happening in the parking lot, you better believe that at that stadium, local law enforcement would be there.
Yeah, you had me up until the hot dog, but I'm a steak guy. But, hey, Chris, out of curiosity, there are so many folks that say technology and trust do not go hand in hand. However, yet again, you perhaps beg to differ.
I do. I think trust is the biggest gap in the marketplace today in terms of adoption of AI, and how do technologists help to instill trust? Well, the sporting event or going to school, these are activities where I should feel safe. I should feel that I'm going to get home afterwards, and it's not going to put my life in some kind of jeopardy. And so these are technologies that are helping to, I think, drive trust back into public places, back into large settings or sporting events or your school.
So where should we expect AI, and with regard to what you're doing, is to really, well, let's say, sit and or settle in the near future? Meaning, is this something that we're going to see every day?
I think it's going to become common. Yes. I think as we've all become accustomed to seeing a camera on every corner, now we can assume that camera might have intelligence.
Well, yet again, I absolutely love it. We've been speaking with Mr. Chris Chibb, is the CEO of Bluefin Solves. Folks that want to find out more information, Chris, how would they go about to do so?
Bluefinsolves.com. Love to meet with all of you.
As 1, 2, 3. Chris, truly appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Guy.
You
Pleasure
bet.
to have you.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Bunch 5 Live Zone. It is now 1 minute, yes, 1 minute past the top of the hour. We are still awaiting a White House press briefing. That should get underway momentarily. In the meantime, let's have some fun, shall we? Well, 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 look who's back. Life with Lindsay after traveling all over the world. Last time I saw you, Lindsay, happened to be on social media. You were sipping a fruity drink on a beach somewhere in Hawaii.
Oh my God, yes, it was so amazing. I'm glad to be back, but let me tell you, my sleep schedule has been so weird. Try to get back on East Coast time.
Well, welcome back. We truly missed you. And happy Virgo season to you as well. I guess it's over now, but I know you were celebrating your birthday. So happy belated birthday, and thank you so much for gracing us with your presence yet again.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here. And yes, I'm 29 again.
Absolutely love it. Hey, let's jump into this. In this case, we're going to kick it off with Cardi B's career. You already know it's on fire in a major way, blowing up social media and blowing up the charts. Her sophomore album, Am I the Drama, is projected to debut at #1 of the Billboard charts. It's been 7 years since her debut album, Invasion of Privacy, and considering all the drama surrounding her personal life, that album title is fitting. Now, over the weekend, the pregnant rapper hopped on Instagram Live to address rumors about her boyfriend who has fathered another woman's 5-month-old baby. In classic Cardi style, she said, excuse me, in part, quote, "Hello, Barbara. This is Shirley. That's my baby daddy, too. What now? We'll figure it out." What say you, Lindsay?
I mean, the title of her album is fitting, okay? I mean, am I the drama? I don't know what to say about this, but when I tell you it's a little bit of a train wreck, I'm glad that she's being very honest about it, you know, and she's not hiding from the controversy, but it's, I mean, I don't, what do you say? I don't know what to say here. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, because you don't want to comment on the drama because I mean, it really is drama. What do you do? What do you say? I don't know, but I wish her the best. That's what I'll say.
You know, we chatted about this earlier today on Good Day DC, and one of the things that I said is it reminds me of what Eminem did in that movie 8 Mile, and that's when you're a battle rapper. You talk about yourself so that no one else, or in his case, the other rapper, can't talk about you. I think that's exactly what she did. She's like, hey, this is what it is. You know, you can't really make fun of me now. I'm making fun of myself.
Right. You know, because I mean, it's just like that. Wow, you just got divorced and now you're about to have another baby. And yeah, it's just like, you can't even make it up. I mean, I feel like she's going to have a movie about her life one day because, I mean, this is a good plot line, you know?
No, I don't know. I'll just say it's grr, and I'll leave it at that. I've been working on that for the last hour.
Well. You did it so well. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. Let's move on to another generational icon in music. In this case, Chaka Khan, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, and Stephanie Mills are back. Oh my gosh, I'm such a huge fan of all of these amazing women. With the second leg of their Queens tour, it's described as 4 legends and 1 stage and features each iconic diva wowing fans with a 45-minute set, going through some of their biggest hits. They will actually return right here to the nation's capital on Friday, October 3rd. I cannot wait for this. I will have to find a ticket some way, somehow, Lindsay.
Oh, absolutely. They're all legends. You have to go to this. And, you know, they haven't said this is the last tour they're ever going to do, but you don't, you know, you're not young spring chickens, so you don't know if they're ever going to go on tour. I mean, this is a must-see. You have to go to the show.
Yeah. You know what? And each one of them, to your point, and, you know, I said it as well, they happen to be divas, but I wouldn't say that they come across as the diva with an attitude. I don't know if I shared this story before, but Patti LaBelle, I was doing an event one time, and I said, "My mom loves you." She said, "Well, call your mom." And then she hopped on the phone and had a conversation. How cool is that, and who does that when in that position?
I love that because you're right. A lot of celebrities don't do that, and that's really amazing. It shows really her character, and she's such a humble person. So I love that for you, and I'm sure your mom was so excited.
Yeah. Now I just got to get my hands on some of that pie that she's known for. One of those patty pies, and I'll be good to go. Yeah. Hey, let's move on to LeBron James, who's speaking out on where he stands with Drake following rumors the two had a falling out. Now, in a recent interview, Lindsay, LeBron said he'll always have love for Drake and wishes him the best, but they're just, quote, in different places right now. Their rumored fallout comes after Drake's infamous feud with Kendrick Lamar in July. Drake even appeared to take some shots at LeBron in 2 of his songs. So do you think these two will ever kiss and make up?
I really don't think so, because, you know, when, you know, LeBron gave like a politically correct answer, which, you know, that obviously there's some beef going on, and he didn't want to like bring it to the light. You know, I wish him the best kind of thing. You're like, yeah, if I could be a fly on the wall of what happened there, I'd love to know. But I don't think so. I think they're gone their separate ways.
Yeah. You know what else? I think these are 2 guys that are, in essence, kings within their own right or in their own field or realm. And so there's a lot of ego going on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's Drake and it's LeBron James. Now, Drake's had to deal with the controversy with Kendrick, so I don't know if that has something to play with LeBron, you know, stepping away. But yeah, the ego's here because, you know, sports and entertainment. So who knows what actually happened, but you're right. I definitely feel like ego played some kind of part in this, whatever happened.
Yeah, Drake is definitely in his feelings, and one thing's for sure, LeBron will not call him on his cell phone. Okay, I tried. I tried.
I love you. I love you.
Hey, let's end with this. In this case, we're talking about Travis Kelce. He has had another rough month on the gridiron. Let's say he was slapped with a $14,000 fine by the NFL for making an obscene gesture and now clashing with his coach, Andy Reid. The latest incident went down last night when the Chiefs were battling the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium. Tensions flared in the second quarter. Here's what happened. Kelsey caught a pass for -2 yards, setting up a 40-yard field goal. Well, the kicker missed it. Kelsey then went back to the sidelines, to which I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong and if anyone else saw it, but, well, that's when the coach kind of gave him the little shoulder nudge, to which Travis kind of looked somewhat surprised and then walked away. Trouble in paradise there, Lindsay? What are you thinking?
Okay, so this is the deal. Him dating Taylor Swift has made him a big diva, okay? And he literally messed up on the field, and he's getting mad at the coach. Obviously, the coach is going to be mad. There's lots of emotions when it comes to football, right? So the fact that he's kind of going at Andy Reid, it's like, ho, you're not bigger than the game, honey, and you're not performing. You can't be a diva because you're dating Taylor Swift. That's my opinion.
Well, in that case, we're going to have to leave it at that. By the way, did you get the invite yet for the wedding between Travis and Taylor?
Not yet. I'm still waiting. But with that comment, I probably am not invited either.
Well, guess what? Neither am I. So I guess we're both going to have to wait. Life with Lindsay joining us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Always good to see you. You look refreshed, Lindsay, and I'm so glad you're back.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and you have a good day.
But of course. All right, guys, it is now, let's see, 9 minutes past the top of the hour. We are awaiting a White House press briefing. It's going to happen in just about 2 minutes. So here's what we'll do. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will be standing right there at that podium. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. Good to see all of you here. I want to start with a preview of President Trump's very busy schedule for the week. Later this afternoon, the president will be making a major announcement focused on the childhood autism epidemic, alongside his top health advisors who are working to make America healthy again. This will be a powerful display of how the entire Trump administration is committed to addressing root causes of chronic conditions and diseases, embracing full transparency in government, and championing gold standard science. Tonight, the president will depart to New York City ahead of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. He will be joined in New York City by the First Lady. Tomorrow morning, President Trump will deliver a major speech touting the renewal of American strength around the world, his historic accomplishments in just 8 months, including the ending of 7 global wars and conflicts. The president will also touch upon how globalist institutions have significantly decayed the world order, and he will articulate his straightforward and constructive vision for the world. The president will also be hosting bilateral meetings with the UN Secretary General and the leaders of Ukraine, Argentina, and the European Union. The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, the UAE, and Jordan. After these important meetings, the president will attend a reception tomorrow night with more than 100 world leaders before returning to Washington, D.C. On Thursday here at the White House, President Trump will welcome President Erdogan of Turkey for a bilateral meeting. And on Friday, the president will travel to Long Island for the Ryder Cup golf match between the United States and Europe. This event is one of the greatest sporting events in the world, and it would not be taking place this year without President Trump's help. President Trump signed an executive order last week preventing a strike that would have crippled the New York City area ahead of the tournament, and at the request of the 5 labor unions who all represent workers on the Long Island Railroad. One of the greatest golfers in the world, Bryson DeChambeau, praised the president's critical intervention, saying, quote, "When the possibility of a strike threatened to disrupt transportation and attendance, President Trump stepped up and took the action needed to protect this world-class competition." Thanks to President Trump's decisive leadership, the Ryder Cup experience will be everything fans and the golf community deserve. Again, that's a quote from the great golfer Bryson DeChambeau. Now let's all hope the American Ryder Cup team can take home the trophy. In other news, positive economic data continues to pour in. Brand new polling shows that Americans' faith in the economy and the direction of the nation is back on track and shooting even higher. Home ownership is more affordable, with mortgage rates dropping to a 3-year low. For new home buyers, this represents a $250 decline in your monthly mortgage payment, or nearly $3,000 a year. And President Trump has made it very clear he wants to continue to see mortgage rates decline to a record low, just like they did in his first term. Thanks to President Trump's unleashing energy dominance, gas prices are dropping and Americans are spending the smallest share of their disposable income on gasoline since 2005. Additionally, the annual cost to own and operate a new vehicle is down by nearly 6% over the last year. Americans are earning more and they are spending more than ever before. After inflation outpaced for 26 straight months under Joe Biden, real wages have increased nearly every month since President Trump took office, with wages for blue-collar workers rising at the fastest rate in 6 decades. Retail sales are also booming, up 5% over last year, and the stock market is booming, and Americans' retirement accounts continue to do well, with the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all hitting new record highs. In fact, the S&P 500 is up nearly 15%, and the NASDAQ is up more than 21% since Election Day. As part of President Trump's mission to restore America as the manufacturing superpower of the world, he has secured nearly $9 trillion in U.S. investment, nearly 9 times more than Biden attracted in his entire 4-year term, and we expect that number to be upwards of $15 trillion very soon. We're already seeing the initial economic benefits of these investments, with industrial production recently rising to an all-time high. President Trump built the greatest economy in the history of the world in his first term, and we are witnessing him do it all over again. Now, before I open it up to questions, I do want to speak on the heinous political assassination of Charlie Kirk. As President Trump powerfully stated yesterday, this assassination was an attack on everything that makes the United States of America the greatest country on earth. But that attack has completely failed. The heartwarming response from the overwhelming majority of the American people over the past 2 weeks is all of the proof that you need. The assassin who took Charlie's life can destroy flesh and blood, but he can never destroy the values that Charlie stood for. All across the country, millions of Americans have prayed, hosted vigils, attended church services, became politically engaged for the first time, and honored the legacy of Charlie and the ideals he died speaking for. The beautiful memorial service attended by President Trump and 100,000 great Americans in State Farm Stadium yesterday was just the latest example. And Erica Kirk's mercy was one of the greatest acts of grace this world has ever seen. May God continue to watch over Erica and their beautiful children. Unfortunately, there have been some jarring exceptions to this unity. This past Friday, 58 House Democrats voted no, and 38 voted present on a resolution that simply stated condemning in the strongest possible terms the assassination of Charles James Kirk and all forms of political violence. There were no strings attached to this vote. This was a simple gesture of human decency to denounce political violence. I wish I could say that this was only a fringe group, but 96 votes is nearly half of the entire House Democrat caucus. And they didn't just vote against this basic resolution condemning political violence. A number of those same Democrats took to the House floor to smear Charlie Kirk's name. The man wasn't even buried yet, and Democrat members of Congress were denigrating his memory on the floor of the House of Representatives. This was truly a sad moment and a clear reflection of how radical the Democrat Party has become. Many Democrats in elective office have now been totally captured by a radical fringe of the far-left base who want to dehumanize every person they disagree with. We must continue to call this wickedness out. It's the only way that our nation can heal. For too long, past leaders have offered platitudes while political violence has been allowed to fester and harm innocent Americans. There has been coordinated campaigns dating back years, spearheaded by radical left-wing organizations centered on dehumanizing, intimidating, doxing, and even attacking Americans whom they disagree with. These groups have radicalized impressionable individuals to foment violence. An attempted transgender assassin traveled to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's family home with plans to end his life. An attempted assassin came within an inch of ending President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and on the campaign trail, another attempted assassin tried to kill the president at his golf club in Florida. A left-wing assassin shot United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson right in the back in the heart of New York City. ICE agents are facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults for simply doing their jobs. Violent radical left-wing mobs engaged in illegal behavior, targeted Jewish Americans, and shut down America's college campuses under the previous administration. Left-wing mobs burned down Tesla dealerships out of, quote, protest of Elon Musk and his policies. In May, a left-wing activist shouting "Free Palestine" murdered 2 innocent Israeli embassy staffers outside of the D.C. Jewish Museum here in Washington. These are just a few examples, prominent examples, of the growing left-wing political violence in our country. Enough is enough, and as President Trump has promised, he will directly address the dark sources funding and supporting this domestic terrorism to finally restore order in our country. The American people can expect further, very strong action on this very soon. Everyone, Republican, Democrat, everyone in between, we all deserve to live in a country where we do not have to fear for our lives simply for stating what we believe in. With that, I will take your question. In today's new media seat, we have Monica Page, who is the White House correspondent for Turning Point USA's news organization, on the front lines. Monica, thank you for being here. We're so sorry for the loss of Charlie. I know you work for him, you were very close to him, and we appreciate your being in the new media seat and also your commitment to covering the White House. You are here every day, just like the rest of everyone in this room. So why don't you kick us off today?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I don't think you realize how much it means to me to be here in this seat, especially on behalf of Turning Point USA and Frontlines. We greatly appreciate it. We also greatly appreciate the outpouring of support and just the really kind words that we heard yesterday at the memorial service. That means more to us than I don't think anybody ever knows. And even the global support that we're seeing for Charlie has been overwhelming, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you so much. I have 3 questions, if I may, on the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk. Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to be a trend, especially after what we saw in the Annunciation Church shooting, Catholic Church shooting. Additionally, Stephen Miller recently commented on the rise in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist movement growing in this country. The president is designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. I'm wondering, what is the approach to holding these people accountable, just to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward?
Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on, because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa. I will just read a few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in Portland, which for weeks prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In January 2022, a suspected Antifa member was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety and our national security, but this administration knows that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Thank you. And Charlie Kirk died exercising his First Amendment right, willingly debating, conversing with everybody and anybody. That was what he did. So what message does this White House have now to all Americans who feel like they are too afraid to express their beliefs, their values, their morals in the wake of such horrific violence?
I think the president has answered this, and I will leave it to his response, Monica, where he so beautifully said, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep speaking our mind. I know that's what Charlie would want us to do, and we have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution, and Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
And to end on a lighter note, Caroline, sure. I'd love to know what your favorite memory of Charlie is.
Sure. Charlie was a great guy, and he was, of course, a very influential person in the conservative movement, in the MAGA movement. He was so helpful to the president during the campaign and to all of us who worked on that campaign, that historic campaign. I myself had many great memories going on Charlie's amazing podcast and his show. He was always willing to text people with words of encouragement. In fact, my last text exchange with him was the day before he died, and he was asking for my husband and I's address to send a children's book to our son. And I think that just speaks to the type of person that he was. And I know so many of us here at the White House are going to miss him very much.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. Gabe.
Carolyn, thank you. Regarding the autism announcement,
Sure.
Why now? Does the administration have new data that hasn't been published previously showing a possible link between acetaminophen and autism?
I know there's been many reports about what this announcement at 4 o'clock will be, Gabe. The president is very excited about this, so I don't want to scoop the president of the United States and our Secretary of Health and Human Services, but what I can assure you is that Robert F. Kennedy and the incredible health team that this president has put together are really viewing things in a much different lens. And they are paying attention to studies and the gold standard of science and research that many in this city for far too long have turned a blind eye to. So I think Americans are going to be enlightened and proud of what they hear later this afternoon, but I won't get ahead of the president on exactly what that announcement entails.
On a different topic, going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend, regarding the DOJ and his seeming frustration that they hadn't taken action quickly enough. I want to point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land. And I think the president is reaffirmed in those frustrations and his hope for accountability by the millions and millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability. And the president has not been shy about this, Gabe. In fact, when he traveled to the Department of Justice earlier this year, all of you were there to cover it, he said, quote, "I demand a full and complete accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave a mandate to investigate and root the corruption out of our system," and that's what the president wants to see done.
Carolyn.
Ed.
On the autism issue again, there are reams of scientific research that suggests there's no clear link between autism and acetaminophen usage. You're suggesting today they may have new information on this. A lot of it, and this entire debate, has the potential to confuse women, especially pregnant women, about what to do. What do you say to those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate?
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic that is, chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth. Women are confused about that and they want answers to that. And that's exactly what this administration is focused on finding. And before you jump to conclusions based on reports that the White House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open ears to actually listen to what the president and his team of outsiders have to say about this. And there will be a number of things that will be announced and discussed. And I think, I know as a mother myself, I speak, I believe, for many mothers across the country who really want answers to what is happening to our nation's children. So again, I won't get ahead of the president, but I think everyone in this room needs to tone down the judgment before you even hear what people are going to say. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. So too on the Holman investigation, I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Holman never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Holman did absolutely nothing wrong, and even the President's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing. In the White House and the president stand by Tom Homan 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the president shut down the border. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have 2 questions on far-left violence.
Sure.
The first one, the president said yesterday that the bullet hit Charlie, but it was aimed at every one of us. Do you and your colleagues have a heightened sense of fear following this shooting and this far-left violence we're seeing across the country?
I certainly think there's a heightened sense of awareness by conservatives across the country, by all of us here at the White House. Again, as I said to Monica, many of us were personal friends with Charlie and had involvement with Turning Point before we came and served our government in this way. So certainly it's a very shocking incident, and I think, you know, it's very unfortunate that those of us who work in this movement have to think about violence just for speaking our minds and for supporting President Trump.
And as a follow-up on that, I asked the president last night on Air Force One about this pattern of transgender violence we're seeing. You know, Charlie's killer lived with his boyfriend who identifies as transgender, and then we had the Annunciation shooting, the Covenant shooting, all of these incidents. The president said that we're looking into transgender violence. Does that mean the FBI is looking into it? And can you give any more clarity on how the administration is viewing this uptick in specifically transgender violence?
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is being willfully ignorant. And the administration is taking it seriously, all causes of violence, and why these people would be driven to such evil and such hatred. And there's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individual investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those. But as for this overall violence and domestic terrorism that we're seeing, the White House and the president's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. And I can assure you there will be additional actions to come.
Sure, in the pink. Thanks, Caroline. Liz Landers with PBS NewsHour. I just wanted to follow up quickly on something that the president had said yesterday. So we heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this country? And then, if I could, I had a follow-up on Venezuela, too.
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the president in an unthinkable moment, in the midst of an unthinkable tragedy, and was leaning on the president for support during that time. And he was there to give it to her, as well as the vice president and many other top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Thanks, Caroline. On TikTok, the deal. How much is the deal? And if you can't give an exact number to how much the deal is, when can we expect to learn how much the deal is being valued at? And then separately, who are the members involved in the deal? Like, can you share any more details there?
So I don't have a specific number for you, nor am I going to confirm the specific individuals and entities in the deal, Kayla, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the U.S. will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number on the specific deal, we do expect that thanks to the president's leadership and the securement of this historic deal, businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the U.S. over the next 4 years. So this is great news, not just for the millions of American youth who use TikTok. Their data will be safe and secure with this new deal. They'll continue to use this very fun app. But it's also great news for all of the small business owners who have really been able to make a living off of the use of TikTok as well.
And if I could just get one more as it relates to China, on crop prices with farmers, as there's still no official trade deal with China, farmers are getting a little bit antsy, navigating prices being weak and not strong. How is the administration thinking about farmers right now? Is there anything we can expect to see from the administration on, sort of bailing farmers out should prices continue to not work in their favor?
Well, the administration is completely understands the anxiety of farmers. We're very much aware of this issue. It has been a part of our discussions, the trade team's discussions with their Chinese counterparts. As for any specific actions, I don't have any news on that for you today, but I can fully assure you the entire National Economic Council in this building, as well as our Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, have been talking with the trade team about this. There's been many meetings on this, and they are on the ball, but I don't have anything specific for you today.
Sure, Selena. Thanks, Caroline. But the case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked
Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump Organization, and an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president and exonerated him of this witch hunt and showed that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James? In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche top DOJ leadership who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
Is that not
Jeff.
retribution, though?
Jeff, it's accountability.
Thanks,
Jeff.
Caroline. Two foreign policy questions. President Putin has offered President Trump a one-year extension of the most recent treaty limiting nuclear weapons. Does the White House have a reaction to that? Does the president want to accept that offer? And then one separate issue, just generally, what is the president's response or reaction to the number of countries this week who are planning to or have recognized a Palestinian state?
Two great questions, Jeff. To your first question about Russia, the president is aware of this offer extended by President Putin, and I'll let him comment on it later. I think it sounds pretty good, but he wants to make some comments on that himself, and I will let him do that. As for all of these Western nations that are recognizing a Palestinian state, the president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer, and he feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas. So he believes these decisions are just more talk and not enough action from some of our friends and allies. And I think you'll hear him talk about that tomorrow at the UN. Kristen.
Thanks, Caroline. Just going back to this Letitia James story. What does President Trump plan to do if the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, tells him that there is not enough evidence to bring his political opponents' cases or to charge those cases?
That's a hypothetical question, Kristen. That hasn't happened at this point.
But we did see one U.S. attorney not be able to find enough evidence, and now they no longer have a job. Is that something that you would consider?
Look, the president stands with Pam Bondi 100%. He made that clear this weekend. He answered questions from all of you last night on Air Force One. He said the same, and that's how he feels at this moment in time.
Just one more thing on the Attorney General.
Go ahead,
Pam Bondi.
Caroline, would the president support designating Russia as a sponsor of terrorism if it doesn't return kidnapped Ukrainian children? And secondly, we just found out through questioning that Hunter Biden sat in on the discussions of his pardons. What's the White House response to that?
Unfortunately, I think it's unsurprising, and it's also very telling that one of the only pardons Joe Biden signed on his way out the door was the pardon of his son. Everything else was signed with an auto pen, but that one was clearly his own signature. To your first question about Russia, I have no news to share with you on that. Sure, in the yellow.
According to media reports, Maduro has sent a letter to President Trump, but President Trump avoided saying whether he has read it. Did he receive it?
We have seen this letter. Frankly, I think there were a lot of lies that were repeated by Maduro in that letter, and the administration's position on Venezuela has not changed. We view the Maduro regime as illegitimate, And the president has clearly shown that he's willing to use any and all means necessary to stop the illegal trafficking of deadly drugs from the Venezuelan regime into the United States of America.
Context of the letter?
Gilbertson, go ahead.
The admin.
To you and then go ahead. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Whitline with Borderhawk News. The admin has openly discussed taking legal action against officials in sanctuary jurisdictions. Just this last weekend, we saw Mayor of Evanston, Daniel Bliss, rioting and protesting outside of an ICE facility near Chicago. Are there plans to start arresting sanctuary mayors or governors going forwards?
Unless they commit a crime, I don't see them being arrested. But if they are violating federal law, if they are violating state law, then of course they should be arrested by state and local law enforcement. If they're violating federal law, then they can expect the consequences of that behavior. Nick.
Thank you, Caroline. Would the president like to see Congress pass a national holiday honoring Charlie Kirk annually?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure he wouldn't oppose such a thing. But you can pose that to him yourself next time you get the chance.
Sure thing. And to follow up too, I know the president is honoring Charlie with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Is there anything else that we don't know of in the works to honor Charlie?
Not at this time, but we do look forward to that Medal of Freedom ceremony very soon. Daniel.
Thanks, Caroline. This past Friday, Adam Schiff, Tim Kaine, they introduced a resolution on Capitol Hill aimed at stopping the successful kinetic strikes against narco-terrorists in the Caribbean Sea. What does a move like this, what type of message does it send to families, specifically families who have suffered at the hands of deadly narco drugs like these?
I definitely think it sends the wrong message. We wish that Democrats would get on board with a very simple idea of ending drug trafficking and securing our homeland. And I saw a report this morning that the Dominican Republic actually helped us seize a boat that was on its way from Venezuela to the United States of America with lots of deadly drugs on board. And so if you actually hear from Caribbean nations in the region, they are thankful and grateful for the administration's efforts, and they're working alongside us to end this plague of drug trafficking through their seas. Sure, Karen.
Over the weekend, Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries sent a letter to the White House asking for a meeting with the president to talk about government funding. Has the White House responded to that letter, and will the president sit down with them to talk about this, given that deadline is now 8 days away?
Discussions are ongoing with both Republican and Democratic members of Capitol Hill. I don't have any meetings or any scheduling updates for you today, but what I will share is that what this White House wants and what Republicans want. We want a clean funding extension to keep the government open. That's all we're advocating for, a simple, clean budget extension, a straightforward, responsible solution to keep the government open to November 21st and allow the full year appropriations process to move forward. And I will add, this is the same budget that the Democrats approved 6 months ago, just adjusted for inflation. And unfortunately, all of a sudden now, they want to shut down the government. And if the government is shut down, it's only going to, it will be the fault of the Democrats, and it will only hurt the most vulnerable in our country, our seniors, our veterans, our military families, and increasing security for members of Congress, which is something this White House and the administration supports. And if you look back at the statements made by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in the past, they too have advocated against a shutdown and for keeping the government open. Democrat Chuck Schumer himself said a shutdown would mean chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. He said once, avoiding a shutdown is very good news for the country, for our veterans, for parents and children, for farmers, and for small businesses. Hakeem Jeffries also said it's about the harm. Families will be hurt if there is a government shutdown. Farmers will be hurt. Holiday travel will be impacted. Democrats clearly know what the right thing to do is here. It's to join with Republicans to pass this clean funding extension. That's what the White House and the president wants. And with that, we will see you all at 4 o'clock for this big announcement later on. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, there you have it. Yet again, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressing the media. This is the first press briefing since the death of Charlie Kirk. The press secretary stating that President Trump will make an announcement at 4 p.m. It's believed to surround autism. The president will also sign a deal later this week with regard to TikTok. It looks like it will continue to tick here in America. And the White House press secretary yet again commenting on the potential for a government shutdown, stating that all the Republicans want in the Trump administration is a clean budget solution to keep the government open. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Well, Council member Robert White announced last week that he will run for Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton's seat as he fights for local control of, well, let's say the district and its intensification, if you will. Speaking to his followers on social media, Mr. White described relentless attacks on D.C. this year. He also called the Congresswoman, quote, our lion on the hill. He joins us now right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Mr. White, always good to see you, sir. Happy Monday and welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Guy.
All right, so Mr. White, it's no secret. We know that Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, in essence, is an institution within her own right. It's somewhat of an uphill battle, many would argue. At what point and why did you decide to throw your hat into the ring to run for her seat, if you will?
Guy, I love Congresswoman Norton, absolutely love her, and worked for her for years. But like every D.C. resident, what we've seen this year is Congress stealing over $1 billion of our money. Everybody here knows somebody who has lost their job, is trying to figure out how they're going to take care of their family. We have masked agents in our streets. Every other day there's a threat about Trump taking over D.C. And what I've realized is that even though it was not my plan to run for Congress, we may not have a mayor or council in 4 years if we can't start to beat this back. So as someone who knows Capitol Hill, knows D.C. government better than most, I know that I need to be in that fight. And our Congresswoman hasn't been able to do it this year, despite how much she has done for this city.
Councilmember, may I ask, did you alert the Congresswoman about your intention to run?
I did. I spoke to the Congresswoman and many people around her.
We know that former Democratic National Committee interim chair Donna Brazile, who worked for Norton starting in, let's say, the 1990s, called her a second mother. Now, recently, within the Washington Post, she said that, well, she believes Norton should not seek re-election. Yet again, someone of a position of power stating that it's time for her to go. It appears you are not the only one that feels this way, sir.
That's right. But, you know, the folks saying that it's time are people who love her. I cannot imagine the strength it took for Donna Brazile to write that. She loves that woman. She also loves this city and knows where we are. And several council members, people associated with the mayor have called for this for months. I've been very silent. This wasn't my plan. My hope had been that Congresswoman Norton would step aside, and I still hope that she will do that because this city desperately needs to start beating back these federal attacks because we don't have much more time.
Councilmember, what is it exactly that you would do should you win, especially being that you would have limited power compared to your potential congressional colleagues?
I've spent a lot of time on the Hill, Guy, over the past several months, and every office I go to, they say, we don't hear much from D.C. And I'm telling them why the issues in D.C. matter to residents and to the nation, and they are hearing many of these points for the first time. So as our only member of Congress for representing the 700,000 people of D.C., I'm going to make sure people across Capitol Hill in the House and Senate know what's at stake for D.C. and the nation, and I'm going to use this unique national opportunity for D.C. statehood. Democrats have gotten into the battle for redistricting over some House seats. The District of Columbia becoming a state changes the balance of power for at least the next decade. So there is a reason now for California, Illinois, New York to care about D.C. statehood. That's different than it's been in the past, but we need somebody who can fight, who can bring that energy, and who can pull people together nationally and locally. And that's something I know how to do.
Yeah, Councilmember Robert White, it's no secret that the nation's capital has really been put on blast, as the young folk have said, with regard to all things surrounding the federal surge. Yet again, we are in the spotlight, we being the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and now you too, sir, are in the spotlight on a national level. I'm curious, the response thus far from, well, let's say the everyday folks that you get a chance to chit-chat with.
Well, like me, people didn't know that I was going in this direction. Again, this wasn't my plan. I'm stepping up because it's necessary now for the district. But I tell people, you can throw a party and you never know if people will come, but the reception has been incredible. I mean, has lifted me in a way that I can't express. Everybody says the same thing. They say, I love Congresswoman Norton, but it's time. And Robert, I think you can do this job. So the reception has been pretty incredible. And I'm grateful to residents and supporters for understanding why I needed to and why we need to make this shift.
And so with that, Mr. White, the next 20 seconds happens to be yours. In this case, we'll give you the platform as to a reason why one should cast his or her vote for you, sir.
Well, look, we all in DC want what's best for us. This is more important than me, more important than Congresswoman Norton. This is about the history, the future of our city, and what happens over the next 3 years will affect us for the rest of our lives. As a fifth generation Washingtonian who has worked with Congresswoman Norton, who has worked in our Attorney General's office, who has represented this entire city on the council, I'm ready to pick up this torch to fight for DC residents and to beat back this federal takeover and get us the jobs, education, and public safety money we need and deserve.
Mr. Robert White joining us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Always good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Always, God. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, and boy, has it been a busy day right here in the zone, as we say. Want to yet again thank Councilmember Robert White. He just joined us a minute ago announcing that he is now throwing his hat in the ring with regard to running for Congress. Of course, he saluted Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, but in so many words says it's time for her to leave and time for him to follow in her footsteps. Also want to thank all of the other guests that got a chance to join us right here on the LZ. By the way, the president, well, expected to have a major announcement sometime later this afternoon, 4 o'clock to be exact. That, according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, it should surround any and all things with regard to autism. That announcement made during the first press briefing since the death of Charlie Kirk. Later on tonight, you're going to get a chance to check me out on Like It or Not. That's at 7. And then you see that one right there? Right after that, producer Chris, or Chris as we now call him, he hosts Do You Like It or Not? And I was just informed that I'm going to be lucky enough to hang out with him and chit-chat with you all there. If you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app. That way you can take us any and everywhere you go. It's interesting. Got a chance to chit-chat with Tucker Barnes earlier today. He was at a golf course as they gave back in a major way. And Tucker said, you know what, Guy? One of the things you need to do is find out how the weather is before you go out and swing the clubs. Well, guess what? If you're driving in your car, riding on the metro, this is the way you can go about to do it. Simply click on that QR code, and you, my friend, are good to go. Also, you see the YouTube page there as well, and that's youtube.com/@Fox5DC. On behalf of my producer, Remy, I'm Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for watching. We're back tomorrow at 12 to 2. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and we'll do it again. The Take, coming up next, right here on Fox 5.